This is the foreword to Revisiting English Grammar. English is a living language, as are French, German, Spanish. The list is long, although it excludes Latin, Indo-European, and other so-called proto-languages. Pick any country and you will also find rich tapestries of living dialects. Languages the world over are alive and changing all the time. However, one feature that remains constant is the existence of a set of rigid rules governing each of them. English has a reputation for being quite hard to learn, not least because it is laced with irregularities and seemingly swollen with vocabulary. As the holder of a Teaching English as a Foreign Language certificate, I can attest to its intricacies. From the view of pronunciation, there are added pitfalls. For example, the OUGH ending is treacherous enough to suggest that the sense of humour of the designers of our language had perhaps gone too far. Where else but in English can a dog smell and be both the sniffer and the stinker at the same time? The list of exceptions to what is an otherwise tidy set of regulations can seem embarrassingly long for the teacher and daunting for the student. On the positive side, English is a less inflected language than many others. For example, most verbs use the same form almost regardless of who is performing the action. The word go is constant regardless of whether the person involved is I, we, you, or they. For all its quirks, the language is exceedingly rich. Owing to its development through the ages, it is quite often in the enviable position of having 3, 4, or 5 words to express one thing, where other languages might just have, at best, 2. This is the positive effect of a hard history, times that saw the British Isles invaded by Celts, Romans, Angles, Saxons, Jutes, Danes, and then Normans. And let's not forget the contributions the ancient Greeks made by proxy. English is very much a fusion language. Uncharitable types might say mongrelized, but it is so much the richer for it. I'll stop complimenting the language now. This book isn't so much about English as it is about something else, that aspect of the language that is often misunderstood. It concerns something that was mentioned in the opening paragraph. For the purposes of study, this particular aspect may be regarded as standing apart from its governed language and be placed under a microscope of sorts. In reality, it is inextricably bound to it. I am referring, of course, to grammar. Grammar is to a language as the unique organization of the individual parts are to a machine, or more appropriately here, as English is alive, the anatomical arrangement of the organs are to a human being. The good news is that grammar is far more straightforward than it is often portrayed to be. Paradoxically, many readers and writers fear it. Popular myth is, to a degree, responsible for this. However, many people might shy away from it because it is remembered from long ago as being something that was dry and harsh. For them, grammar has long since been tidily discarded into some dusty corner of the mind. It may now seem too esoteric and even too unfriendly to be applied systematically in everyday life. For these people, this inconvenient dinosaur is something they would simply like to forget about. As long as they believe they know how to write well, they will prefer to pay a form of begrudging lip service to actually following the rules of writing well. And, believing their grammar to be good enough, they will leave it alone and keep a respectful or even fearful distance from it. Nevertheless, grammar exists because it needs to. Without rules, there would be no language outside of closed, unwritten dialects, as we had had many thousands of years ago. Let's go back to the above analogy of grammars being to English as the arrangement of organs is to a person. Grammar is like the language's brain and nervous system. English is the living, whole being, the wonderful eccentric who loves to create new words and celebrate its status with 2 traditions of spelling. It's the language of Shakespeare, Byron, and Dickens. It is also the language of Whitman, Poe, and Davies. It is also a tongue in trouble. This is one of the wages of being a living language. Modern speak is everywhere. On the billboards we drive past, in the company emails we receive, and in the culture of convenience that has sprung up to supposedly aid people in these fast-paced times. The most glaring symptom arises in spelling. Consider the question, are you ready to go? Now, consider the textese or chatese equivalent. Capital R, capital U, ready, number 2, go, question mark. For all the richness, versatility, and musicality of English, spelling and attention to grammar are often discarded on the keypads and keyboards of people who consider themselves good communicators. The above is an extreme example. However, in our haste to reply quickly, many of us might make errors less easy to notice. Over time, this habit might stretch to the more important works we write, as hazy memories of rules fall away to repeating these acceptable deviations. It is unarguably the job of grammar to control the language. Thankfully, this can be observed by the student quite simply. The rules of English grammar are quite straightforward. No magic tricks are needed. This book will show you, or refresh you about, the essentials and the refinements of English grammar. From illustrating correct use of parts of speech and punctuation to building good sentence structure, it offers a comprehensive, in-depth guide. It will also serve as a handy reference for helping you to avoid common problems and offer frequent exercises so you can practice. It also features a comprehensive construction to quickly take you to those areas that are traditionally problematic for writers. This book is also written in a modular style, so that you can begin with the basics and progress to the advanced areas naturally and over time. This may just be the only grammar guide you will ever need. Please understand, however, that it is still only a tool. The good writer within you will need to realize that potential in a variety of ways. It is for this reason that this guide seeks to also help in that dimension. It contains informative asides, did you know sections, and spotlights on techniques, authors, and recommended reading so that you can build confidence in your mastery of grammar as you go.